We spend so much of our lives nowadays online. For me, it's practically my life. I mean, it's certainly where my profession lies. And because of that, I think that I've grown more and more to really appreciate the tangible objects that sort of give meaning, I suppose, to our lives. And for me, partly because of where my interests lie, a lot of those objects are old. They're from before my time. It's sort of, to touch them and to see them just gives me a sense, I think, of what came before me. And I don't know why this is, perhaps because of the nature of my job or the area of interest that I've grown to have. But a lot of those objects that have ended up in my possession pertain to American history. And so my eyebrows were raised when my wife returned home from a rummage sale a couple of months ago with something pretty wild.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
I suppose it's amazing what people are willing to sell at rummage sales, and by all accounts, the people who sold this to my wife were more or less unaware of the contents of the newspaper, and striking is that this rummage sale happened right here on Illinois, but the newspaper itself is the Kalamazoo Gazette. So at the time, this newspaper was purchased on the other side of Lake Michigan, and in the ensuing 80 years somehow found its way to Chicago. So in some respects, there's an intriguing and as yet mysterious story to that. But the newspaper is dated December 8th, 1941, the day after the attack on Pearl Harbor. And the really striking thing for me upon first glance is the focus isn't entirely on the attack on Pearl Harbor, but also talks about the Japanese attack on Hong Kong and Singapore, the invasion of the Malay Peninsula, and the bombing of the Philippines. Whereas you have to read down a little bit before you actually read the words Pearl Harbor, which sort of suggesting that even though the newspaper does talk about the expectation that the United States is about to join the war, Pearl Harbor doesn't in these early hours seem to be the rallying cry that it would become. But look at this, Oregon on alert, Alaska on watch, Mexico to patrol shores. It really sort of makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And when I think of the attack on Pearl Harbor, it's sort of easy to forget that the mainland United States was on alert during the aftermath of that attack. I mean, it almost seems unfathomable to us now, but I imagine to citizens it probably felt like a genuine potential invasion.
I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
One thing I often like to do when I come across a newspaper of historical significance is to sort of skim to the back or the middle pages just to see if there were any news stories that were entirely unconnected to the unfolding events. And of course, this is 1941, so most of the news stories in here really are related to the military and war operations. But it was sort of comforting, if not a bit chilling, to discover a little snippet in here that you could almost expect to find in a newspaper today. Christmas cards to be displayed by Western Michigan students. Art students of Western Michigan College have been working for the past few weeks in preparation for the annual display and sale of handmade Christmas cards at the art rooms in the barracks from 4 until 6:30 Tuesday, December 9th. And you wonder about those things, did it go ahead? Did the ensuing developments, in other words, the announcement that the United States is set to join World War II, put life on hold in Kalamazoo? Or for the sake of normalcy, did these kids get to go ahead with this fun activity? Now, unfortunately, this newspaper came to us in not the best condition. The years have not been kind to the paper itself. It's obviously browned a little, and there are evident tears where it's clearly been folded for a very long time. So I think the best thing to do at this time is to pop this into a sleeve and keep it in the best condition I can, because objects like this, whether they're worn and torn or not, are probably our most valuable connection to the past.